Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and yes, I just woke up, but we've got to do a pretty cool comparison today. So we are going to be comparing the all-new Chevy Silverado ZR2 to the GMC Sierra AT4X. These are sibling vehicles, but there are some distinct differences. We're going to go over those in today's video. With that being said, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into the comparison. Starting under the hood of the ZR2, we have a naturally aspirated 6.2-liter V8 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's good for 420 horsepower and then 460 pound-feet of torque. It has an axle ratio of 3.23, and you know what? You can't really go wrong with a big naturally aspirated V8. Now, the AT4X has the same exact powertrain, and this is where I think that GM made a slight misstep, right? I think that they should have given the Sierra a more premium powertrain, maybe a supercharged V8. That would have been fun, but they should have at least offered the diesel, because then that would have made this the most capable diesel half-ton off-roader ever. But yeah, you know what? They didn't do it. Hopefully they'll make some changes in the future. Now let's quickly go over some off-road specs while I'm showing kind of the front end stuff here on the ZR2. So we have 11.2 inches of ground clearance with the ZR2. We have an approach angle of 31.8 degrees. We have a departure angle of 23.3 and a breakover angle of 23.4. That is very important as we talk about the angles over on the Sierra. Now you guys can see the flow tie, which is really cool. And then I love some of the accents, like that LED accent light and the daytime running light. And then you can see there with the headlight as well. And I think the ZR2 looks great from a front end perspective. You've got the red tow hooks. You have that, like, you know, Raptor-like skid plate appearance with the front end. And so it just has this really aggressive off-roader type appearance, which I think just looks absolutely fantastic. And they've like cut the bumper and everything to make it so that it's, you know, really practical from an off-road perspective. Now popping over to the AT4X, apparently they put tires that are slightly smaller on the AT4X, and so it's got like 10.9 inches of ground clearance. But the biggest difference is with the angles. So approach angle is 25.4 degrees, breakover 22.7, and then departure 25.9. So if you think about that for a second, we have a breakover angle that is worse compared to the ZR2, right? And then if we look at the approach angle, it's significantly worse compared to the ZR2. And then if you look at the departure angle, it's actually better somehow on the GMC Sierra. I'm not sure why, but somehow it's better. So who knows? Anyways, you guys can see with the styling here, this looks more like a regular Sierra. They didn't do crazy things with the front bumper to make it more capable off-road. It still has skid plates underneath, just like the ZR2, but it has that normal AT4 front bumper and appearance and everything. I think it's an amazing looking truck, but it isn't as capable from an off-road perspective because of what they've done with the front end aesthetics. You got to pay to look pretty, right? So popping over here to the ZR2 again, and if you guys look at the tires here, they do look a little bit beefier here on the ZR2 actually. I thought that, you know, perhaps it was maybe just like the bodywork with both of the trucks, but yeah, the tires do look beefier. So just like a regular Trail Boss, you got a 2-inch lift from the factory, but you have completely different shocks. They're the DSSV shocks from Multimatic. It's a 3-chamber system, really advanced stuff. Basically makes it so that it is as capable at high speeds as like a Gen 2 Ford Raptor, pretty much, which is really cool in terms of like how well it is at absorbing things and everything. Now, it doesn't have the travel of a Raptor, but it's still super capable for what it is. And then you guys can see leaf springs still in the back, and then there's a better look at those, well, partial look at those shocks. I really like them. I've taken this off-road, but I've also taken the Colorado off-road that has a similar shock system to it, and I'm so shocked at the damping with it. It is just very, very impressive. High ground clearance exhaust tips, and we've got a full-size spare tire underneath as well, which is really cool because some manufacturers will cheap out and not give you that. But if you have an off-road vehicle, you need a full-size spare, because if something goes wrong, you need to be able to do it. But yeah, look at the tires and everything. They do in fact look less like beefy. That's weird. But anyways, you still have like an off-road style wheel. You guys can see the tires are still extremely aggressive, and then still have a 2-inch lift, just like the AT4 and just like the Trail Boss and just like the ZR2. And you still have the Multimatic shocks as well. So this is just as good at damping. Now, I've had some people tell me that actually own this and have driven the ZR2 tell me that the AT4X drives slightly smoother compared to the ZR2 on-road. It gives you more of like a luxury experience on road from a ride quality perspective. But that's one of those things where it sounds like unless you own the truck and drive them back to back, you're not really going to be able to perceive it. Like if a regular person jumps into both trucks, they're going to be like, oh, these are both comfortable trucks. And then notice with the fender flares, so they're kind of like more boxy with the design. Still have the leaf springs there in the back. And then you can see again with the shocks. And you guys are probably wondering with like payload and all that, it's identical with both the trucks pretty much. Well, depending on how you spec them out, right? If you spec out one of the trucks with more options, like a sunroof, for example, that will decrease the payload because it adds weight to the truck, right? But that's any vehicle. And then still get the high ground clearance exhaust tips, which some people have said that, you know, they shouldn't have done this on the GMC because, again, it's, even though it's an off-road oriented vehicle, it's not as off-road oriented as like the ZR2. So like should have done, you know, just outlet out the back so that it looked cooler. But, you know, I'm glad that they did the exhaust tips the same on both the trucks. I'm still trying to figure out that departure angle difference. That still doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, you guys can see here with the tailgate how that slow lowers down, which is really cool. LED bed lights here in the back. And then notice with the full power outlet and ZR2 there at the edge of the bed, which is pretty cool. And then you got the cargo light there with the camera at the top. And this one does not have the auto raise for the tailgate, actually. And you can tell when you pop in the interior if the little arrow thing doesn't point back up. But anyways, you got Chevy's distinctive taillights, which I think look pretty cool. You got another ZR2 badge Chevrolet stamped onto the tailgate. Silverado. Parking sensors there on the rear with the bumper steps, which help out with loading stuff into the bed. And something to mention with both these trucks is you don't really have a decrease in payload or towing compared to a regular Silverado. Like the Ford Raptor and Ram TRX, you lose a lot from a capability perspective, whereas this, it's still, you know, just as capable as other half-ton trucks on the market. So I think that's a huge draw to it, that you can, you know, basically have the off-road capability and you can still have the on-road capability as well. But anyways, popping over here to the Sierra, notice with the LED lights there in the bed, full power outlet, you've got bed protection as well. It says AT4X there at the edge. And then you can see the cargo light and camera. And then this one has the cool multi-pro tailgate with the kicker sound system so that you can go and have fun with the friends outdoors and listen to some music and everything. I really like that idea because it takes tailgating to a whole new level. So I think it's cool that they do that. Anyways, I think the rear end of this truck looks better. Frankly, I think that most of this truck on the exterior looks better. The side view on the ZR2 might be a little bit better. But yeah, GMC styling, I just think it's better looking than Chevy styling, especially like look at the rear end in this blue color. It just looks so fantastic, if you ask me. I think they did a really good job with that. Now, popping the interior, this is where things get really different. So with the ZR2, first off, notice with the coloration with the grays, right? And the reason they picked these colors is they don't show stains as much. And then you got like the neon stitching as well. And then the other thing with this interior is it's supposed to be really easy to clean off. That's kind of like the emphasis with the ZR2s because they think that this is going to be the one that people are going to take off-road more than the AT4X. And so you've got like easy to clean with the door panels and with the seats as well. They're like resistant seats. And so they just kind of have, again, engineered this so that everything's easy to clean. I'm not sure about stuff getting in that little storage space though. That'd be kind of interesting. Under seat storage though. And then popping over here to the AT4X, notice definitely more of a luxury appearance with the interior. I think it's absolutely beautiful. This is one of my favorite truck interiors of all time. I think they did an amazing job with the coloration, with the stitching design, with the piping, everything. It's just such a good looking interior. I absolutely love the design. So props to GM for doing that for the AT4X. And you can see here with the seats, look at the piping on them. And then again, behind the seat storage, and just look at the center design and everything. It just looks so cool. Really cool. And then both of them have heated seats in the back, if you guys are wondering, and then charging ports and all that normal practical stuff. Popping back here to the front, you guys can see here with the little dots there in the center. Door panel in the front, same as what you have over in the rear. And then blind spot monitoring for the mirrors. You know, all the normal safety tech stuff. Got the double stack design again with the armrest, again with the neon stitching. All of the window controls, and then another speaker for the Bose sound system. And then you guys can see with the ZR2 logo there. And then again with the front seat, easy to clean. And I think the design overall looks pretty cool. Again, it has that like rugged off-roader type appearance to it. And then your adjustments there on the side. Normal pedals, they didn't do anything special with that. And then notice with our parking brake, you've got your like drive mode select, drive line select, 4-wheel high, 4-wheel auto, 2-wheel high, 4-wheel low, and then your light controls, heads-up display as well. So quite a few controls put into that little panel right there. And the steering wheel adjustment is power, which is pretty cool. Now going from that over to the AT4X, and let me tell you, I'm going to cut quite a bit out of the AT4X clips here coming in the near future on this video because there's a lot of similarities. But anyways, door panel again is different, so that's why I still showed this clip. You can see with the memory seats, and then AT4X right there. And then again with that double stack design with the armrest. And a lot of people have been asking me about the upgraded Bose sound system. It basically sounds similar from like a subwoofer perspective, but like the clarity, because there's more speakers, sounds better than the previous version. So it's similar to like what Ram did when they went to Harman Kardon. And then notice for the front seats, again, I love the appearance of these seats. And they're comfortable too, actually. They are on the firmer side of things, but they're comfortable. Then you guys can see there with the GMC logo. Oh, and also with the AT4X, you can get massaging seats too. I mean, come on, what more could you ask for? Get a massage while you're off-roading? Sign me up. But anyways, we're going to focus on a lot of stuff with the Chevy's interior, and then when we get back to the AT4X, we're going to skip over a lot because a lot of it's the same. But notice here with the steering wheel, from material standpoint and design standpoint, kind of like the darker stitching. It would have been cool if they did the neon stitching on the steering wheel too. But controls for the center stack, basically paddle shifters there for the 10-speed automatic, and then notice with the radio controls there on the back. And then you can see over here on the other side with your cruise control heated steering wheel button, and then you got your turn signal windshield wiper stock. It's a good looking steering wheel overall. Full digital gauge cluster with the ZR2. And this is one of the big upgrades with the new version of the Silverado, is going for this digital gauge cluster. I think it looks a lot better than the previous gauge cluster that they had in the Silverados, and it's cool that it's, you know, pretty much debuting with the ZR2 package. But yeah, notice with the drive modes how it has a little animation. You've got your tow haul mode, and then you've got normal, you have like an off-road mode, and then you've got your terrain mode. So basically off-road mode is for like high-speed off-roading basically, and then your terrain mode is for your rock crawling. So you just pop in the mode and then the truck will do a lot of stuff for you. There is some stuff that you have to shift into, right, if you want stuff locked up and everything. We'll kind of talk about that in a moment. But I think they did a good job of just keeping it simplistic and not being like Ford and giving you 50 different drive modes and half of them you'll never even use. Now, I love the new infotainment system. So first off, camera system is amazing. Super high resolution. You've got viewpoints out of every single angle with the truck, so you can literally see like everything, and you can pretty much spot yourself off-road. Yeah, my friend Jack down in St. George, he's got one of these, and like he just tells me like he just climbs up stuff and he can just do it without like having anyone, because the truck just has such a good camera system, and frankly it's also super easy to off-road too. But notice there with the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and how they like double down with the buttons, I think is kind of funny, like 2 home screen buttons there. It's kind of interesting. And then you've got the auxiliary screen there off to the side here with the ZR2, where you can scroll through some different menus with that. And yeah, I think it's a solid infotainment system overall with the truck. And I'm glad that it's horizontally opposed as well. That's another thing. Anyways, of course, again, doubling down with those buttons, that's so weird. You've got your lane departure, parking sensors, auto stop starts, the tailgate drop down doesn't raise up, and then your hazard lights, stability control, hill descent control, and then you have your rear locker, or you can do the front and rear locked at the same time. And that's one of the coolest things about the new ZR2 package, is the fact that you have front and rear lockers, right? Instead of that G80 system, you can choose when it's locked, and you can also lock the front end, whereas with other Silverado models, there's no front locker. So between the upgraded shocks and the lockers, it definitely makes the truck a lot more capable from an off-road perspective compared to a regular Trail Boss, frankly. Still should have done 35s though, just saying. Trailer brake controls, notice where those are, because they're actually located in a different place in the GMC. Heated, cooled seats, and you got the dual zone climate controls as well. And then you guys can see here with the shifter for the 10-speed automatic. And some people ask me about the trailer brake controls. I think it's because the stop-start button in the Sierra is super big. So I think that's why they had to move the trailer brake controls. Notice the center console again with the neon stitching. I think that looks great. And then wireless phone charger. And then you can see there with the storage space in the center console is also fantastic. So it's super practical. It's got the dual glove box, which is kind of interesting with how it opens. Reviewed quite a few Silverados now, and it still doesn't get old. And then they've got nice padding here on the dash, but notice kind of like the texturing on it. And pay attention to the material use, because that's one of the big distinctions with both the trucks. Regular sunroof there at the top, power sliding window as well, and then you've got the camera mirror system, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, that is the ZR2. Now popping over to the AT4X, yeah, you can see that stop-start button is huge, so that's probably why they had to move the trailer brake control. It's exactly that. So I just want to show you guys the steering wheel so you can see the difference in terms of the appearance of it, and the stitching is a little bit different in the center of the steering wheel as wheel. Haha, I always have to make that joke. But all the controls are the same, frankly, on the steering wheel other than that. So like everything else is the same. They both also have the one pedal drive. That's another bit of off-road tech I forgot to mention. So that's another slight difference with both the trucks. Now here's a gauge cluster. Digital gauge cluster, but just you have a GMC Sierra in there, and then the coloration is a little bit different. Same thing with the infotainment system. Same infotainment system, coloration is just a little bit different. So I just want to show you guys kind of like the different coloration. And then you guys can see where the trailer brake controls are here in the Sierra. And then I also want to show you more of the material used throughout the interior, because that's another distinct difference. So obviously the UI is all the same with both the vehicles, and so it's kind of like the fit and finish on some of the stuff. But then you'll see a lot of similarities as we're kind of carrying through this last little section right here. Still have the funky glove box, but notice like the dash again looks a little bit more upscale with the material use. Still have that funny glove box. And then also at the very top of the dash, again, same as what you get in like the new Denali, so it looks really nice and upscale. And then going from that, which yeah, looks so much nicer, frankly. Also heads-up display, but you can get heads-up display in both the trucks if you guys are wondering on that. So that's not really a big selling point. But notice sunroof is the same, but you got like power sliding window and then a premium headliner here in the AT4X. So that's kind of another big distinct difference, is that it just, again, has more luxury items in it in terms of like the finishes on different surfaces. Still got the camera mirror though. But quickly from a price point perspective, so that Silverado ZR2 was before the price increase, so it was like $71,000, but now that'd probably be like a $74,000 truck today. And then the AT4X is like $77,000. So originally there was like a $6,000 price difference, but now there's only like a $3,000 price difference between the trucks. And so that's where things get pretty complicated. And here's what I have to say is, if you're going to be taking the truck off-road, ZR2, we just read the off-road specs. It has more ground clearance. It has a better approach angle, better breakover angle, somehow has a worse departure angle. Still not sure as to why that is. And I feel like there's going to be more, I mean, they're built off the same platform, but I feel like there's going to be more companies digging into the ZR2 for, you know, building modifications specific to that truck, like bumpers and everything, to help out with improving those angles even more so. So I think that that's one to go for, because there'll probably be more aftermarket support specific to that truck from an off-road perspective. And then the interior is easier to clean off, all that kind of stuff. The AT4X, on the other hand, right, it feeds more to the luxury side of things. What I mean by feeding more towards the luxury side of things, right, is it looks like it has slightly smaller tires, a little bit less ground clearance. Again, the angles aren't as good, but the interior is way nicer, and the exterior, in my personal opinion, looks cooler. Now, I love the front end of the ZR2, but the rest of the truck is just regular Silverado, and yeah, the rest of the AT4X is regular Sierra on the outside, but I love the GMC Sierra styling. I think that is like the best looking half-ton on the market, especially with the redesign. So if you're going to be mall crawling with the truck, I would get the AT4X, frankly, because I think it's a slightly better looking truck. It has a nicer looking interior, and the price difference isn't as big as it was at initial launch. At initial launch, a ZR2 was like $66,000 base price, and then an AT4X was like $75,000. And my guess was that an AT4X was pretty much going to come standard, like fully loaded, which that is pretty much reality, because fully loaded AT4X is like 77-ish, whereas the ZR2 you can add some options, and you could originally put it just over 70. So there was a big price difference. But now that there's not really a big price difference between both of the trucks, it makes the AT4X look a lot better. And, you know, I'm not going to say that it's a value play necessarily, because it is more expensive, but you are getting a nicer interior and you're getting nicer looks, in my personal opinion. So that's kind of how I would look at it. And I know that seems like, you know, throughout this video, I was kind of like bagging on the AT4X a little bit. I still think it's a great truck. And, you know, if I was going to buy a more luxury-based half-ton, I would buy the AT4X over something like a Ford F-150 Limited, or even, you know, the GMC Sierra Denali, because I love the interior on the AT4X, and it has really cool looks on the outside that you don't really get in other like in normal luxury trucks. So I think that it definitely has its place. And so I want you guys to let me know which truck you would pick. I guess that ultimately, at the end of the day, for me, as an off-road enthusiast, I'm going to pick the truck that is slightly more capable from an off-road perspective. But you guys got to understand that's the angle I'm coming from. Is I'm someone that actually uses my vehicles for what they're intended to be used for. So I would take that thing off-road. I would put it in situations where I would need to use the front and rear lockers, and I would push those Multimatic shocks. And so I'm going to go for the truck that, you know, is built to handle a little bit more. And there you go.